Hello everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a quick video. And by quick, I mean quick. Got shit to do. My kid and I have a lasagna in the oven, okay? I got like 10 minutes tops. She's looking at it in the little window, asking me every 4 seconds if it's ready, okay? So we're working on borrow time. Just wanted to update you lightly on my summer reading project, which is the Seattle Library's Adult Book Bingo Reading Challenge. Anyone can do this challenge. It's amazing. If you are from a sad city whose library does not do an adult summer reading challenge, Seattle Library's there for you. They'll be that stand-in for you because they love you. Okay. I think since the last time I chatted about books that I was reading for this, like basically to sort of like get the grand prize for the bingo, you got to do all of them like a blackout. Like you can do like a cross or like up or whatever. But I always go for the blackout because I'm not messing around. Since I last updated you, I think I've read 4 books. Most of them are novellas, and I won't lie to you. And I'm in the middle of 2 others. So just quickly. First one, I went for a book of books. I read Anna James's Pages and Company, the 3rd installation of it, which is Tilly and the Map of Stories. Read the first 2 of these and they were banging, so I was like, of course I need to read the 3rd one. Basic premises: Tilly and her mate are book wanderers, okay, so they can go inside books, wander around, meet the characters, have a chat, pop right out. We have these like 2 evil people who are trying to isolate book wandering and make it so that only certain people can do it. And they're trying to sort of hoard book magic for themselves by sort of destroying books, which has sort of like a knock-on effect of when sort of books disappear from people's lives, like their memories and their personalities and everything change, and they start to sort of forget everything in their life. So Tilly and her mate just have to go to America. Don't know why. They go to America in search of this sort of mythical gatekeeper organization for the book wanderers. And honestly, when I finished it, I thought it was 4 stars. I was like, this is banging. It's all the characters I know and love, you know. And it was a banging adventure. However, since finishing it, I've had to think about it, and I think actually it was more like 3 stars. Like, it didn't stay with me. Like, that feeling at the end when I was like, woo, it fizzled. And I started thinking, actually, I don't really know what happened fully. I think I'm a bit confused still. I think the plot for this one sort of overcomplicated, explained strangely, and maybe not well enough. I do also have the 4th one. I am going to read the 4th one, but I think I might have to read some sort of like Spark Notes situation of this book before I move on, even though it's for kids. Like, I don't know, maybe 11-year-olds like got this way more than me. I mean, it's possible. Anyway, 3 stars that one. Next one I read, Non-Binary, Genderqueer Author or Character, Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. I've been wanting to read this one for quite a while. I tried to read it for Nonfiction November and was informed that actually it is not nonfiction. It's not a memoir, folks. Just kidding. It is a novel. But it was good. So basic idea is this guy, he calls himself Two-Spirit Indigiqueer and Glitter Princess, okay? So he is Indigenous and he has left his home where he grew up on the reservation. He's living in the city, but his stepfather has died and he has to go back for the funeral, but he doesn't have any money. He has to first sort of like get a lift back, and he needs like $300 or whatever to do that. So he's trying to raise the money by doing his normal sort of like cyber sex work, you know, and as he's doing this, as he's sort of like getting the money and building up and sort of saving and like hooking himself up with a ride, he's sort of talking to us about his memories. He's walking us through his childhood on the reservation with his grandmother's Kokum, who's a bit eccentric but delightful. Also his mother, his family on the reservation, also sort of talking to us about his sort of semi-love affair with his best friend growing up. They were both gay, but sort of couldn't have a proper relationship with each other because they were sort of like denying their situation, and that's sort of a theme throughout. You know, they've had to sort of come to terms with the fact that it's hard to sort of be fully Indigenous and fully queer. Like the two tend not to go well together. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I fully enjoyed like how it was told, you know, how the memories were told, how you got snippets of them in between a sort of like funny running commentary of like, you know, that cyber sex worker life. Also, the ending was really heartwarming. I really enjoyed it. But I gave it 4 stars at the very end, and it's literally like the other one I just said, where sort of like it lifted me up in the end, and I fully loved it, and I was like, ooh, 4 stars. But then sort of like thinking back on it, I'm like, was it 4 stars or was it 3? Again, like that feeling hasn't stayed with me of it being just like brilliant. Like I think it was good, but I think the memories maybe were sort of too disjointed, or sort of like thrown together weirdly. Quite a lot of them sort of blur together in a weird way. Like I think its staying power wasn't as good as I thought it would be, but I did really enjoy it. It was really a good book, so 3 stars still. We had a prompt for a blue cover, and I've gone with Hex by Jenni Fagan. This one I randomly picked it up, like I'm on like a year of not buying books or whatever, but I picked it up when I was in Edinburgh as sort of a souvenir, just quickly, and it turned out to be the best of this lot. Like, I didn't really know anything about it. I just sort of like looked on the back and it said something about Galis Duncan, Outlander. I won't lie to you, but after reading it now, it's brilliant. I had no idea that it was that brilliant, and I think it's going to be one of my favourite books for the year, honestly. So it's part of a series that they're doing in Scotland about Scottish history. So now I want to get the other 2 as well. There's like 3 of them. One that came out ages ago called Rizzio, I think, and that one I think is about Mary Queen of Scots and her lover. And then there's another one coming out as well that I'm going to try to get because I think this series is brilliant. So it's a series of Scottish history where the author sort of like focuses on one sort of specific event in Scottish history and then sort of like writes around it. And this one was the trial and execution of Galis Duncan, who was basically not a witch at all, obviously. She was just a child. Basically, she was 15. She was like a housemaid. She was a housemaid for a guy who had some plans. He wanted to get some money, some inheritance that he was denied, really. So he needed, in order to get inheritance off someone else, he needed to have people convinced that that person couldn't have the money. So he sort of manipulated his maid into admitting to witchcraft and then renouncing this other person as a witch as well. Which is super fucked up. And they also tortured her in crazy ways. Like, I'm not even going to go into it. Like, the book does, though, so, you know, trigger warning. But I feel like it was really, like, jarring, like, in a good way. Like, it's not messing around. It's letting you know exactly what happened to her. But the book isn't really about her. So, like, the premise is that this woman in the 21st century now, she is a witch, and she's able to sort of like channel herself through the ether or whatever to visit Galis Duncan on her last night in prison before she's executed. And she has this like deep connection with her, like a sisterhood. And she explains to Galis that what has happened to her isn't fair, but also that what's happened to her is still happening in the 21st century if she thinks that it's some sort of like 16th century nonsense, you know, like deep-seated misogyny and violence against women that's sort of isolated to the witch trials and stuff like that of foregone times. Like, it's not. It exists today still in the same sort of like potent way, and it was brilliant. So Jenni Fagan, I'm gonna get her other books as well because she's a brilliant author. I think she might be one of my like new favorites. I have to look into it, but at the minute I have high hopes. I think she's a poet originally, and now as a novelist, her writing is beautifully poetic, but also just like, oh, like a vitriolic sort of slam on like, you know, casual sexism in society and like violence against women. Like, it was brilliant. That was 5 effing stars and one of the best books of the year so far. Like, brilliant. Sci-fi fantasy by BIPOC authors. I read Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a tiny novella, and it is one of like 3 or 4 novellas that sort of go together. And I think nowadays when people do read this, they do read it as like a compilation, like they get one book with all of them in. And it did sort of feel like that. It did sort of feel like it's a part of a book, like it's not a book on its own. Like, I just read a couple chapters and now I'm reviewing the book, even though I didn't finish the book. So it did come to an end, just not a very sort of decisive one, and it seemed very short. Anyway, I'll have to read the rest of them, and I am interested in reading the rest of them. This girl is from a group of people on Earth, and she has a place at a university on a different planet, and she wants to go to university there, but her kind of people hardly ever leave their land because their land is sacred to them. And she knows if she goes to this university amongst these other sorts of people, she's gonna face discrimination. So she asked her family or whatever, and the family's like, no, you can't leave here. So she leaves in the dead of night because she's really interested in studying sort of mathematics and being educated. She has a talent or sort of something special about her, which she's a master harmonizer, sort of like helps her to make astrolabes in her group of people who are known for making astrolabes. Also, there's a bunch of other benefits to it, and we don't find out those until the story sort of gets going. She's on the ship then with this other group of people, and she does face discrimination, but she also meets a bunch of other sort of future students for the uni, and they also value education and mathematics and things like that, and they're open to being friends. So she's like, okay, we're going to be friends. But then the ship is invaded by this other sort of like alien type, like they're sort of like jellyfish-like, I guess. I'll leave it there. I won't sort of like spoil it. But I did really enjoy sort of, I guess basically, you know, she's supposed to be sort of from a sort of black African sort of culture, and then this Kush culture, this sort of like uni other planet or whatever, is sort of like I guess like a white culture, and she faces sort of similar types of discrimination as you know, black Africans face in white cultures, you know, just normal. And everything sort of like obviously can stand for other things, you know, like you can see the symbolism behind it, as well as being just a good sci-fi story. It's also like quite deep in that way, you know, like symbolic of loads of sort of like social issues. I think it did feel like really unfinished. Like I definitely need the rest of it. Like maybe, yeah, don't just read the novellas one at a time. Maybe like get the sort of like full book. I need to get the next one now because it has sort of just like left it. I went with 4 stars on this, but sort of I think under the assumption that it's going to continue to be this good in the other novellas, because on its own it's not really enough. Do you know what I mean? Most recent book by an author, like you read the first thing by the author and then the most recent one, and for that I've gone with Becky Chambers, Psalm for the Wild Built. And this one I think I had a similar situation with Binti. It's quite small and it is part of a series as well. Like the second one hasn't come out yet. I just looked, it comes out on the 12th of this month. I know I'm on a book buying ban, but I feel like I might need to get that one anyway. So basically it's in this sort of future society, sort of like a utopian society that follows a sort of apocalypse, really, like a sort of cli-fi type apocalypse, and the society that everyone has built after that is like based on community and compassion and working together. But what also happened is something they call the awakening, where all robots just suddenly came into consciousness and were sort of aware of themselves and sentient and everything. And when that happened, humans decided to release them from service and to let them sort of do whatever they want. They didn't sort of like hold them back to do all the sort of mundane robot stuff that they had to do before. And the robots said, oh, thanks for the offer of like staying around and like living in your societies, but we're gonna fuck off. We're gonna live in the wilderness. And they hadn't really been seen since. So nobody currently living in here actually remembers the awakening or remembers sort of seeing and talking to robots. Like the robots are fucked off. You have a person who is non-binary. They are a tea monk. So it's sort of like a quite unrealistic sort of utopian society where there are a bunch of different gods, and people sort of pray to different gods based on their personalities and things they value, but they also respect other people praying to other gods. Delightful, I know. This main character is a sort of disciple of this one god or whatever. They're a monk and they're a tea monk. So what they do is they make tea in a traveling cart and listen to people's troubles, and just generally provide comfort in life, which is lovely. So they have like, though, despite being good at their job and having like a general satisfaction with their job, there's sort of like an underlying sort of restlessness and like a questioning and sort of, I guess, like a dissatisfaction with the way their life is going forward. And they sort of in their mind get a sort of fixation with the idea of hearing crickets, because I guess at that time crickets are nearly extinct and it's hard to hear crickets. So they hear that you can go to this ruined monastery area and hear the crickets. So just all of a sudden they sort of like throw everything out of their life, just quickly put everything on hold and decide to go off-roading into the wilderness, which people in this time don't do because the robots live out there. And they've sort of divided up the world into parts where people live in and then swaths of untouched wilderness. Do you know what I mean? They go into the wilderness and meet a robot a robot called Mosscap, who's very interested in humans and wants to know more about humans and what humans need. The resulting conversations between them are beautiful. You know, they're very philosophical and sociological and based on society and sort of desires of people and people who feel purpose and people who have destiny and sort of what's the point of humanity and sort of really deep things like that, and it really beautiful sort of like chats. But it was very short, and again, I felt like with Binti, maybe there's 3 or 4 of these in the end when they're done that need to sort of be all part of one book. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like this book in itself didn't develop that idea properly. It didn't have enough time. Do you know what I mean? So I think now I definitely need to get the second one because I did really enjoy it. 4 stars, definitely. But yeah, like, it wasn't enough. Do you know what I mean? Again. Now, I'm in the middle of 2 at the minute that I haven't finished yet. One is been meaning to read, which is Bunny by Mona Awad. And I don't know a whole hell of a lot about this one. I just sort of started reading it based on a recommendation that I heard off like Bert, I think, and then also someone in a bookstore back home in Seattle told me. It's like, I think the recommendation I got was something like The Heathers and Mean Girls, sort of like that. It's at this exclusive sort of Ivy League type humanities college in New England, where the main narrator is doing an MFA. She's sort of like a graduate student, and she's doing it with this group of really rich, really pretentious, like manipulative girls who call each other Bunny. They're like the bunnies. And our main narrator is not that. She's not rich. She's not, you know, like smooth and like graceful and gorgeous in this way. And she sort of hates them, the bunnies, but also loves the bunnies and wants to be one of the bunnies. And when the bunnies sort of like open up to potential parlay with her to like bring her into the group, part of her knows not to do it, but also part of her wants to do that. And I think it is a social horror. Like, it will get bad. Do you know what I mean? And I'm excited. Like, they sound fucking horrific. Like, when she describes them as like a 5-headed monster. Like, they're all one body with different heads, and just sort of really manipulative and fierce in like an icy way. And there's a lot of like bunnies now following her around, which creeps me the F out. This is, I think, going to be amazing. I'm only here, but I've encountered nothing in this book which makes me think like it's not going to be another like favorite of the year. And then the last one I'm working on, recommended by a local bookseller, Summer Suns by Mandelo. I don't know, I'm gonna guess. So this one I know literally nothing about. Anyone who knows anything about this one, please let me know. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? It is also horror. I believe it is a Southern Gothic horror. It takes place in Tennessee. I'm only here, I'm like 10 pages in, basically. And at the minute, this guy, his friend has killed himself and he's gone to sort of pick up his car. And now he realizes that the circumstances are actually really mysterious, and he's going to go investigate the circumstances, and then it all gets fucked up from there, I imagine. But I'm pretty excited. I definitely have to go get my fucking lasagna now. Like, my kid, every 4 seconds, again, like, all of these like videos are like really disjointed. I'm gonna have to mash them together because I had to stop it every time she came up to ask me about lasagna. That is the update. I think after I finish those 2, I have 9 left to read, and I'm working my way through. I've got until I think the end of August to do it, so I've got pretty much all of July and all of August to read 9 books, which should be piece of piss. Should be able to do it. But I don't know, I don't want to jinx myself. If you have any thoughts for me at all, any comments, any questions, literally anything at all, what is your summer reading plan? Let me know. Have you, in your summer reading already, encountered anything effing amazing that I 100% need to get right now by breaking my book buying ban? Please let me know. Also, any horror stories, anything you picked up that was going to be amazing and it turned out to be dog shite, please also let me know so I can avoid that same mine. Okay, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.